My name is Katie Alanese. I have the pleasure of serving as the director of the Center for Learning Innovations and Teaching Excellence, as well as a faculty member in the College of Education and Behavioral Sciences here at HCU. And it is such an honor and a blessing to welcome you. As our symposium committee has prepared for this day, we have prayed 2 requests. The first is that God would be glorified through this event. The second is that this event would be honoring and celebratory of the legacy of Dr. Dawn K. Wilson. Those of you who had the pleasure of knowing Dr. Wilson remember that she was a teacher and a mentor who excelled in caring well for her students and in building their creativity through meaningful learning endeavors. She excelled in encouraging them to reach their highest potential, including their efforts to share their research and their teaching insights with others. And for that reason, this symposium that was founded by Dr. Wilson over a decade ago was a true work of heart. In September of 2019, when Dr. Wilson went to be with Jesus after a brave battle with cancer, we knew that it was very important that we continue this event in her honor. I know that if she were standing here today and were to look out at this beautiful group of people, her heart would be filled with joy. She would have loved to learn alongside you. And so from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for your willingness to be here today and to learn alongside one another. What a testament this is to her passion for learning and her beautiful legacy. Before I introduce our legendary keynote speaker, let me say a word of prayer. Please join me. Father, we thank you so much for providing this day to be together, to learn alongside one another. We pray that this day would bring you so much glory and would honor and celebrate the legacy of our dear friend, Dr. Dawn K. Wilson. We pray that the words of our mouths, the meditations of our hearts would be pleasing to you, that each one of us would be able to take something special from this day that we can apply to our personal lives and our professional practices. I pray that the networking that takes place, the learning together, would bring you joy and would bring joy to the hearts of all in attendance. We give this day to you and thank you for what you have in store. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Let the symposium begin. I realize that our keynote speaker today needs no introduction. In fact, he is quite a legend in the Houston area and so far beyond, but I would like to give you a few highlights of his amazing life. Jim Mattress Mack McIngvale is a Texas-grown phenomenon and a true legend across Houston and beyond. In 1981, Mack and his wife, Linda, founded Gallery Furniture with only $5,000 and a dream in their hearts. Mack began television advertising and quickly became a household name. Over the years, Mack has received countless awards, most notably the Volunteer Service Award Points of Light, personally given by former President George H.W. Bush. Mack's strong work ethic is matched only by his philanthropy, and he believes and consistently demonstrates that we all have the responsibility for the well-being of our community. Mack has provided shelter for hundreds of families displaced by natural disasters and hosted countless relief efforts, both in Houston and beyond. He has donated millions of dollars of furniture for teacher workrooms in Houston area schools, the Salvation Army, Habitat for Humanity, United Way, hurricane victims, and more. He and the Gallery Furniture team have also fed more than 25,000 people celebrating Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter for countless years. Despite these efforts, Mack believes that being at Gallery Furniture every day and providing hope to the community is his most important and significant community involvement. Join me in warmly welcoming this historic Houstonian with a heart of gold.
Thank you very much, Katie, for that wonderful introduction. She said historic Houstonian. That would be Mr. McNair up there, not me. I'm honored and thrilled to be here today at Houston Christian University. I had to get used to that new name, and it's a great name. Thought about what I was going to talk about today. I'll tell the story of my life as it continues to evolve. You see, I was doing real well about 43 short years ago. I was 28 years old, living home with my folks in Dallas, where I grew up at. I had kind of a menial job. I was sacking groceries, making about $3 an hour. And there's nothing wrong with sacking groceries, nothing wrong with making minimum wage, but I kind of felt with my college education, my background, that maybe I should be doing something a little better than that. Anyway, I had a bad attitude. And the name of that convenience store I was working at was located in a rough neighborhood there in northeast Dallas. The name of that convenience store was called a Stop and Rob. One day the boss walked in and looked over at me. He said, son, you got a bad attitude. And I said, yes, sir, I know it, sir, but I'm trying to change. He said, well, son, I'm going to help you change. I said, that's great. How are you going to help me change? And the thoughts raced in my mind, a raise, a promotion, what's it going to do for me? He said, boy, you're fired. And I said, oh, no. And I went home that night to my folks' house. And like many people in this country nowadays, 43 years later, I went into a self-fueled depression. You see, I felt sorry for myself. I felt like I was entitled to a nice home, nice car, nice job without having to work for it. And I was full of resentment, and I felt like I was grateful for nothing and entitled to everything. So I went into depression there for 5 or 6 weeks, living in my parents' house as an abject failure. And I woke up kind of early one Sunday morning, 5 or 6 weeks later. I turned the television on, and lo and behold, there he was, looking me right in the eye. His name was Oral Roberts. And he was a famous television evangelist. I really didn't need any religion out of the television because I went to church every Sunday, but I decided I'd watch for a while. I turned the television on, and Oral Roberts said, he said, there's a lot of you out there in television land today that are throwing your lives away. He said, you're wallowing in the throes of self-pity. He said, you feel sorry for yourself. You feel like the world owes you a favor. He said, let me tell you something. The world doesn't owe you a favor. You owe the world a favor. And then he said something that would change my life forever. He said, get up, go to work, and make something out of your life. And that was an absolutely seminal event in my life. I remember it like it was yesterday. He said, get up, go to work, and make something out of your life. And it just shook me to my core, so I decided the next day I would follow his words. So I went out and I got a job at a furniture store located about 40 miles from my parents' house as a furniture salesman. I didn't know anything about that, but it's the first job I could get. And the problem was I had no car to get there. Well, you know, in business and in life, you do what you have to do, and you don't pay the price, you enjoy the price. So I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning and rode that bus out there 2 hours every morning, 2 hours back at night. But I found something I was good at. I was good at retailing. And my whole psyche changed. I quit feeling sorry for myself. I found a job I loved to do, and I realized that then I would never have to work a day in my life. And after about 18 months of being there at that furniture store, I began to dream of maybe having my own location. But I didn't want to open a furniture store up there in Dallas, compete with my boss who taught me the business because he'd been so good to me. I was very loyal to him. I asked him one time in late 1980 where it'd be a good place to start a furniture store. And he said, kids, Houston's a boomtown. Why don't you try Houston? So I called my brother George up, who was living in Houston in the real estate business at that time. I said, George, this is Mack. I'm thinking about moving to Houston, getting the furniture business. see if he could find me a location. He said, Mack, he said, I'll see what I can do. He called me back about 3 weeks later. He said, Mack, I got your location. I said, great, George, where is it? And he said, 6006 I-45 North between Tidwell and Parker. And that's an old line on a TV spot. I said, hey, that sounded like a good deal. I said, sign me up. And strangely enough, as I talk here in the McNair Hall, that property was owned by the Beelan family on the name on the chapel right there. So the Beelan family was very good to us. They gave us a low rent, and my wife and I moved down there. We had $5,000 in a dream. And all of her friends, all of her relatives, all of her neighbors, with good reason, they said we'd never make it. They said we were undercapitalized, didn't know anybody in the furniture business, had no banking connections in Houston. But I felt like we would. So at that time, Linda was my girlfriend. I said, Linda, I got great news. We're going to move to Houston to get in the furniture business. She said, Mack, there ain't no way. I said, you don't understand something. I'm going to move to Houston to get in the furniture business. We just might do well. We might be successful. She said, look, Mack, I got a good job. My family's here. I love Dallas. I'm not moving to Houston. I'm not getting in the furniture business with you. One thing I learned you have to do if you have to be successful in life is, above all, be persistent. Never give up. So I kept asking her that night and asking her. Finally, about 11 o'clock, asked her about the 40 time. She got very frustrated with me. She slammed her hand there on the dashboard. She said, tell you what, Mack, I'll move to Houston. I'll get in the furniture business with you. But you're going to have to marry me first. And I thought to myself, this woman has put me on a difficult decision. But then I came up with what I considered to be an entrepreneurial brainstorm. I thought to myself, where else can I get an employee this cheap? I said, you got a deal. And we moved to Houston in 1981. We had no chance, zero. No chance. We had $5,000. So that property that we rented from the Beelans was an abandoned model home park. There was 4 or 5 model homes there, and they'd been closed for about a year. The property was very rough. These vagrants had been living in the property, and they had no plumbing, so imagine that. And we went down there, cleaned the place up, and started selling furniture. I invented that. Somebody said, talk about creativity. I invented same-day delivery in the furniture business back in 1981. Necessity is the mother of invention. So if you want to be creative, get yourself in a trap where you got to have some creative ideas. So we had no money. And when a customer bought furniture from us, we had to get it delivered real quick. Otherwise, if they canceled, we'd go out of business. That's how tight we were on money. So it was simple. I'd sell the furniture. We'd load the furniture, red pickup truck. My wife would drive the truck. This other guy would go with her when they delivered the furniture. That's how we invented same-day delivery. Only place in the world that ever did that. And we slept at the furniture store the first 2 years. Our inventory was so scarce that we couldn't afford to have anybody steal it. Many nights I would sell out of furniture on Saturday night, and I would drive a U-Haul truck Saturday night at 10 o'clock to my friend's store in Dallas, meet him there at 2 o'clock in the morning, take the receipts we'd had from that day before, pay for furniture, drive it back down and sell it on Sunday. You do what you have to do and you enjoy the price. And nobody said life is going to be fun, easy, or fair. Never has been, never will be. And every setback is just a setup for a comeback. And so, we stayed with it. And in May 26, 2009, it was a Thursday before Memorial Day. We were very busy selling a lot of furniture, making a lot of customers happy, which is what we do. And one of the warehouse boys called me and said, we got a fire back here. I said, well, put it out. He said, you don't understand, this is a great big fire. So we were very busy, lots of customers checking out. And I just thought it was a fire in the dumpster or something, so we kept selling furniture. And these firemen ran in with their full uniforms on and all that heavy equipment. And the fire chief started screaming, get out, everybody out, everybody out. And he looked at me and I said, I'm staying here, I'm going down with the ship. He said, get out or get arrested. I got out. Went out there and looked at that warehouse. The flames were jumping up 40 feet above the building. It was horrific. That $10 million warehouse burned down in 20 minutes. It was 2,000 degrees in there. And that was our life. It was all done. So we gathered with all the employees, being religious people, and we circled hands together and got in a circle and prayed, and we decided we would go on in the little furniture shop we had leased 2 months before at Post Oak Boulevard. And the problem was we couldn't go on because we had no inventory. All the inventory burned up. So I called a bunch of people I knew in the furniture business that night at 12, 1, and 2 o'clock in the morning. I told them to bring the trucks of furniture to us. We were going to sell it on Friday. And we had no place to put it. We know God is a providential God, and he looks after us. And I got home at 4 o'clock in the morning. After that fire, we got up at 6 o'clock. We opened that store at 7 o'clock in the morning. We started selling furniture. We had no warehouse, no furniture, no chance. And people came in and bought furniture because of our reputation in the community trying to support us. Then a lot of the other people said I was the arsonist. But you know, criticism never bothered me because I kind of have a one-track mind. I'm focused on team members, customers, and community. So about 1 o'clock, this banker friend of mine called me and said, I got a complete warehouse over here on 59. It's got furniture, cantilevered racks in it. It's got lift trucks. It's ready to go. You can rent it for free by God's grace. And the truck showed up that afternoon with the furniture, and we unloaded the furniture. We sold the furniture. And that Friday, even though we were out of business Thursday night, we sold $250,000 worth of furniture and delivered every penny of it. And I had a speech that night at 6 o'clock at Westbury Christian High School, the commencement speech. The lady called and said, you're canceling, aren't you? I said, nope, that's not me. I'll be there. I did the speech, and we moved on. Tough times never last. Tough people do. Tough people do. They knock you down, you get up, you dust yourself off, and you get back in the fight. And they're going to knock you down again. And you just keep telling yourself, God is with me and I can do this. And you never give up. And so, here we are today. I was asked to talk about creativity. My wife and I own the West Side Tennis Club over here at Briar Forest in Wilcrest. I was enamored with tennis, so I had all these professional tennis tournaments there, Andre Agassi and Pete Sampras and Roger Federer and all these guys. And we were losing money hand and fist running this tennis club because tennis is a very real estate intensive sport, and there's 4 people play on an acre of land. So we couldn't make any money at the tennis club, so I turned it all over to my wife and focused all my energy on the furniture business. So my wife said, this tennis didn't work. We need to make this into a family place. So my wife likes primates, so she got all these monkeys over there and flamingos and what else they got? Tortoises. And now they have 6 giraffes. And the membership went from 1,500 to 7,500. And that's because she's creative. And she put in a water park for all the kids, and the place is absolutely booming because she's creative and she thinks out of the box. Collaborate. I am in a collaboration with the Houston Astros. After my antics the other night in Philadelphia, I don't know if they like it or not, but whatever. I guess they like it. They want me to throw out the first pitch. That's a real challenge. The Houston Astros if you go to one of those games, you will see people of all races, colors, creeds, nationalities wearing orange and blue. And nobody worries about what part of town you're from, or where you went to school, or your socioeconomic status. Everybody just worries about the Houston Astros winning that baseball game. The Houston Astros bring this entire city together, and it's an amazing thing what they do. The entire city will be united tonight. We need more of that. We need more community. You know, human beings were made to live, work, play, and die in groups. Human beings were made to live, work, play, and die in groups. Did you know in 1900 the average size of a U.S. household was 10.5 people? The average size of a U.S. household today is less than 2, and 1 is the loneliest number. And every single one of us in this room is a slave to that cell phone. People used to eat dinner together, now they're on their cell phone. The best thing I ever did at Gallery Furniture was bring in dinner, these Whataburger or Mexican food or Chinese food or whatever, every night at 6 o'clock for all of our employees. And they all eat in our little restaurant we have there, and we have one rule: no iPad, no cell phone. Sit down and talk to the person next to you. You know, I have a lot of low-income people that work for me, and they come to me and maybe they have a criminal record, maybe they have a felony, maybe they have whatever. That's not my issue. The issue is, how do we find them a place where they love to work and they'll never have to do work a day in their life? And they sit at that table and they meet the person next to them, and they find out they have some commonalities. Then all of a sudden, when I have a car problem, I'm going to find a way to get to work because I don't want to let down my coworker, he or she. And all of a sudden, I have a family that supports me. And all of a sudden, when I have a problem, I need a lawyer or a doctor or something, somebody to fix my air-conditioned home. Somebody in there has a contact that can help me. That's what human beings are made for. They're made to be connected. And so we communicate with each other by being there for each other, by being present, by being in the moment, by turning that cell phone off and turning your attention totally and solely on that child who looks up so much to you, by leading a life built for others. I am lucky to work in that furniture store. You know, I firmly believe that work is life's greatest therapy. And I'll believe that the day I die. And the biggest problem these people have in this country is they're robbed of the joy of work. We got to get everybody to find that job they love to do and never have to work the day in life. You may have to go through 20 jobs till you find that one that makes you tick in the morning, but that's what you need to do. And so I'll tell a story about this woman. Her name is Temple Grandin. She's a friend of mine. She's 100% autistic. Didn't speak until she was 5 years old. But her mother would never give up on her. And her mother was an educator in Boston. Her father was a doctor. And her mother would not give up on little Temple. And so whenever they had people over their house, they'd make little Temple get dressed up and come out and say hello to all the people, even though she didn't want to do that because she's fully autistic. And so 5 years old, she started speaking, and then they sent her off to boarding school, and she was put in charge of mucking the horse stalls. Not much fun. But little Temple at that age, at about 13 years old, found out that she loved animals, and she made animals her life work. And she went on with full autism, off-the-chart autism, to get a PhD from Colorado State University, and now is the premier animal welfare person in the history of the world, 800,000 years. And she helps people with autism all over the world and helps animals. And so I was invited to her birthday party at Colorado State a couple months ago, And I was one of the speakers, and I figured there'd be 20 speakers there. I was the only speaker for this incredible woman who changed the world. But you know why she changed the world? Because her mother would not give up on her. And I see those parents in there every day in that furniture store. They have a child with Down syndrome, or they have a mother that's had a stroke, and they didn't abandon them. They didn't put them in a nursing home. They live with them, they care for them, and their life is them, and that's Jesus on the face of the earth. Not giving up on people. Not measuring people by about how much money they're worth, but measuring them because they're human beings. I am terribly creative because my mind is like a goldfish. I get a new thought every day. But you know, we don't live in the past, but the past lives in us. We don't live in the past, but the past lives in us. My father was an entrepreneur. My mother was a housewife, but she had the greatest work ethic in history. And my grandparents were German immigrants who had a work ethic off the chart, and they live in me every day. I don't know anything other than to work. And I'm trying to teach that work ethic to my children, my grandchildren, all the people that work for me, because work is life's greatest therapy. Citizenship. Are we going to leave this country better than we found it? That's the question. What type of society are we when quite often we pay more attention to rescuing dogs and cats than foster children? How will they judge us 100 years from now? You know, there's 300 or 400 foster children every night in Texas that sleep in the child welfare offices because they won't allow the child welfare workers to take those kids home. They have some of these kids, 16, 17-year-old girls that are by themselves. They house them in hotels that are full of prostitutes. What are we thinking here, folks? We can do better. We can do better. We need to reach out to the least, last, and lost and teach them there's a better way. There's a better way to live than waiting on the mailman to bring me that welfare check every week. There's a better way to live, and it's called work. And it's called finding something in you that makes you better. No matter what that job is, it doesn't matter what it pays. It matters is that I like my job. My friend Yvonne Strait runs the Briarwood School. She started Briarwood School 60 years ago because her child was born with Down syndrome. And they told her that her child's life expectancy was 5 years. She would be dead in 5 years. Yvonne said, not on my watch. And so Yvonne took that child, that Down syndrome, all over the country trying to find a doctor who could make that child say a word or make a noise. The child was a vegetable the first several years of her life. Finally, she took that child up to Purdue University, and the doctor got the child to say a couple murmured sounds. And it gave Yvonne hope. She started the Briarwood School for children with severe learning disabilities. And now that child, Vicky, is 60 years old. And she lives at Brookwood over there, which is a home for adults with severe learning disabilities in Brookshire, Texas. They have 99 full-time citizens at Brookwood. They're all adults. Some had Down syndrome, some had severe mental illness. A lot of them were in car and motorcycle accidents. They were perfectly normal people like you and I with a good job, and they got in a car or motorcycle accident and brain impaired. But Yvonne has learned in her life that work changes people's self-esteem, and it changes their life. So everybody at Briarwood, even the paraplegics, have a full-time job. They find a job they can do, and they put them to work. And their self-esteem goes from here way up to there. So Yvonne Had this guy come to her a couple years ago. Yvonne now is 95 years old. 95 years old, still at it 7 days a week. She lives a life built for others. This guy came to them a couple years ago. His business executive got in a motorcycle accident, brain impaired, and he wouldn't do any of the jobs they wanted him to do. He was insolent. And finally, after about several months of trying, he found a job he liked, and he got to doing the job, and he was good at it. So one Friday afternoon, Yvonne's sitting in her office. This great big grown man comes running down the hallway with a piece of paper in his hand, and he's running full speed, and he bursts in her office. She's startled. She says, John, what's the problem? He says, Miss Straight, look what I got, look what I got, look what I got. She said, what'd you get, John? What'd you get? He said, Miss Straight, I got a paycheck, I got a paycheck. I'm a real person now. And during COVID, the residents at Brookwood were forbidden from working. They didn't want them together. That was the law. And so they tried to find something for them to do. And they got them to have some water, some paint that was, you could wash it off real easy. And the state allowed them to work outside, so they have them paint things on the employees' cars, and they wash it right off. You know what several of them wrote on the windshield? Please let me work. So that's our opportunity. Our opportunity as citizens of the United States is to be a citizen, is to make the world a better place, is to show people a better way, that work is life's greatest therapy, because everybody in the planet has a set of skills given to them by the Creator that's unique and special to them that nobody else in the world has. And if we can find those skills and let those people go to work and find a job they love to do, they'll be the best thing in their life. I get those kids that work for me. I got one of the best workers I have, spent 6 years in Angola, the roughest penitentiary in the country in Louisiana. He's the best employee we have. He's the best. He learned how to work in that prison. And he's got a big infectious smile. Everybody loves him, and he's an incredible guy. We have to believe in people. We have to believe in the value of work. We have to believe that the good Lord put us on this earth to make the earth a better place and to leave it better than when we found it. I have a child named Elizabeth. When she was 13 years old, she was diagnosed with severe obsessive compulsive disorder, Howard Hughes disease. And so she used to wash her hands 600 or 800 times a day. Took her 6 or 8 hours to take a shower. And getting out of bed, she had to take a step and then take another step. She had to do that step 42 times 42, because her mother was 42 years old. So it took her 3 hours to get out of bed. So we took her to all these doctors and nurses across the country, and they all said they'd never seen such a severe case before of obsessive compulsive disorder, Howard Hughes disease, and there was no hope for this child. And put her in a mental institution for the rest of her life. Well, you know, her mother and I, we're not buyers, we are sellers. We weren't buying all that. So we looked around the country and finally found this place called Menninger, which was a mental health institution for OCD in Topeka, Kansas. One day on her birthday in a cold, snowy February many years ago, we put her on a plane and took her up to Topeka, Kansas to put her in Menninger to see if they could save her life because she was suicidal. For 2 years, my wife lived upstairs with Liz because she was suicidal. And she would grab a butcher knife every other night and give it to her beloved sister and beg her to kill her. And she screamed all night long, God, what did I do to deserve this? I wish I was dead. It was hell on earth. But you know, we had faith. Her mother had faith. So she went to Menninger and now her nightmare was coming true. We were going to put her in a mental institution for the rest of her life. That was not the intention, but that's certainly what it looked like to her. She got there and she sat down on the couch and cried all day long. And this little girl put her arm around her, who's still her friend to this day, and said, it's okay. I cried when I got here too, but this place saved my life. Well, thanks to the doctors and nurses at Menninger, after about 6 or 8 weeks, Liz got better and she came back to Houston and re-enrolled at Westfield High School, a public high school out there. And the teachers and coaches and administrators did a good job of helping her to cope with OCD during high school. And she did very well for a year. Then she had another relapse and she went back into Dominica because, you see, mental illness is a cruel disease. No one knows who it may strike or why. Mental illness never goes away, it lasts forever. My child will always be walking on the edge of a cliff. I cannot keep her from falling. So she went back into Dominica for another 6 weeks and she got back out. And one of the proudest moments of our life was seeing this child walk across the stage and get a diploma from Westfield High School, because they said she'd never, ever finish high school. Then she tried college 4 or 5 times and finally found a teacher, a mentor that really helped her. And now she has a PhD from University of Houston. She's one of the premier OCD therapists in the world. And even though she continues to fight OCD every day, her life's goal is to help people with mental illness. And today, as I speak to you, she's speaking to a group of 500 people in Dallas. And I asked her why she did that and how much money was she getting for the speech. She said, I don't take money from speeches. That's my way of giving back. And I thought, perhaps her mother and my wife, my own life has been worth something. And the worth is coming from the actions of that child. Make the world a better place. I was asked to talk about problem solving. Best advice I ever gave on that was work through your problems, take them head on. You got a problem, go deal with it. Brushing it underneath the couch ain't gonna make it any better, it only gets worse. I've always been a take problems head on type of person, and it's worked for me. I am out front, I'm outspoken, and I'm all for making Houston and Texas a better place. That people say, why do you work so much? Because that's what I like to do. When are you going to retire? I said, I'm going to die right here at the front desk, and I'm going to die happy. Houston has problems. We've got overwhelming crime that's out of control. We've got lots of other issues, immigration issues, etc. But you know what? We can solve all those problems because we're smart people. We're smart people. And the best way I know to solve those problems is get people together in community. In community, whether it's church, whether it's a baseball game, or whether it's a school, or whether it's just being nice to each other. I was up there at Philadelphia the other day, and every one of them screamed, F you to me. And I thought about, we don't do that in Texas. We thank people who come down with the other team's colors on because that's who we are. We're better than that. And I think each day our responsibility as citizens of Texas and citizens of the United States is to make Houston and Texas and the United States a better place through our own actions and modeling those actions for our children and people that we work with. Houston Christian University is a wonderful place. It's changed the lives of thousands and thousands upon people. The objective is to keep doing it. The objective is to say at the end of the day, when we all face our Creator at the end of the day, no matter who we believe our Creator to be, the Creator is not going to ask you or not going to ask me, how much money did you make? The Creator will not ask you, show me your list of material possessions you piled up over your life. No. The Creator will instead ask us, how much of a difference did you make? How many lives did you change? How many lives did you enrich? How many lives did you better? And so that's our challenge and that's our opportunity. The challenge and opportunity is huge, but the opportunity to change the world is there for all of us. Temple Grandin did. Yvonne Strait did. Our little child Elizabeth is doing it. We all can. Don't ever underestimate yourself or how good you are because you're the best. Don't ever underestimate how much a difference you can make in this world because you can. Here I am, a little bitty furniture huckster, firing up the entire Houston Astro team because I took up for Jose. So what? My last thought, be not afraid. We're here today, we're gone tomorrow. What's there to be afraid of? They can't eat you. Be not afraid. Well, I'm afraid I might fail. Fail's good. Fail forward fast. I failed 10 million times in my life. I've had a million things that didn't work. But you know what? Every failure puts you one step closer to success. Thomas Edison said the secret to life is never giving up. So don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your family. Don't give up on your faith. Don't give up on your friends. Don't give up on your community. Keep working at it till we get there. Yes, Houston has problems, but the biggest asset Houston has is great people like you. We can solve those problems. We can make this not the deadliest city in the country, but the safest. We can make it not the most polluted city in the country, but the cleanest. We can make Houston the best place in the world in which to live, work, play, and raise a family. We can all do that together. That's the idea. It's community. I'm 71 years old. I got a lot of energy, and I got a lot to do. But my biggest accomplishment is seeing those kids that work for me, that came to work for me scared, nervous, unemployed, hopeless. 15 years later, have a great job, have a great career, have a great family, have a great life, and then be able to do the same thing for their children. That's our calling. Our calling is to make the world a better place. Thanks very much. Anybody has any questions, I'll ask any questions.
What an inspiring keynote address. I can't think of anyone better to have delivered this presentation, this address today. Thank you so much. We have a present for you there so that you can represent Husky Spirit with pride. So we hope you enjoy that. Fabulous. Thank you so much. Awesome. Be not afraid. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. And with God on our side, anything is possible. So many wonderful words of wisdom that were shared throughout that message. Awesome. I want to thank all of our presenters today. We're so grateful for everyone who has devoted their time to preparing a breakout session presentation or one of our interactive workshops. If you are a presenter today, could you please stand so that we can recognize you? All of our presenters, thank you so much. Excellent. If you will be presenting within the first breakout session, you are now dismissed to go prepare for your presentation while we talk just about a few details of the day. I promise to be quick. Thank you, presenters. We appreciate you. We know that they have been working so diligently to design effective, engaging, interactive presentations. And so we hope that you will stay for the entire morning so that you will be able to see all of the presentations. Anyone who does stay will earn 4 CPE, Continuing Professional Education credits, if you do fill out the feedback form. So please be sure to do that. Your certificate will be shared with you within the week. But remember, you must stay for all of the sessions in order to earn those credits. If you have not already, please be sure to check in. We need every person, all those who have registered, all those presenters, all those volunteers to please go ahead and check in if you haven't already done so. And so you see the check-in is on the slide there. In just a moment, we're going to show another slide that has a schedule on it. And so you will definitely want to access that schedule on your device, whatever device you're using, before we walk over to the Hinton Center for the breakout sessions. There are some QR codes that will allow you to access the schedule within the Hinton Center, but this is the best place to do so that you can be prepared as soon as you arrive in the Hinton Center to attend the breakout session of your choice. We also have fabulous raffle prizes. And so if you did not grab a raffle ticket, Dr. Serling is holding some tickets for you. And so you can grab your ticket before you leave McNair Hall and walk over to Hinton. If you stay for all of the sessions, so remember our last session of the day will be presented by either Dr. Serling here in McNair or Dr. Marcos in Beelan, your choice. They are both going to be phenomenal sessions. You'll want to stay, and then we'll have the raffle immediately following those sessions. We have some amazing prizes from Chick-fil-A as well as from Amazon. I have to give a special shout out to my mom and dad who are volunteering here today. My mom is marketing for Chick-fil-A, and she was able to bring some fabulous prizes. Let's give them a round of applause. I'm just so proud of them for being here today. So I appreciate that very, very much. So you'll want to stay for those prizes. That's important. And let's see here. Other than this, the only reminder I want to give you is that we would really appreciate you taking photos of the day. We have photo props for fabulous photo ops. So if you want to take some photos and share on social media, we have a special hashtag that you can use. That hashtag is HCU, so our university, T.L.R, Teaching, Learning, Research Symposium 2022. So we would love for you to share those photos so that we can spread the word and bring you all back and some of your friends back next November for the 2023 symposium. Thank you again for joining us today. Oh, we have a question? Absolutely. And I want to mention, anywhere you see one of the orange squares for the symposium, the hashtag is at the bottom, but I would be absolutely happy to repeat it. So it's HCU T.L.R 2022. Again, that's HCU T.L.R 2022. If you received an email from me, which everyone in the room should have received emails, multiple emails, as a matter of fact, from me, that hashtag is also listed on those emails. Are there any other questions before we dismiss?